Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen. This is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. I would like to extend my gratitude to you listening to this podcast. It means everything to me, and I hope that it is clear that this subject matter is so important to me. I care about our people, our future, and making a positive change in this nation.
This episode is powered by Poddex.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. Today we have a special guest, Karev, who is the owner and creator of Heritage Hip Hop. He has agreed to co-host the show today, and we will get his take on some of our interesting topics we have, and we also will hear more about what Heritage Hip Hop podcast is and the Heritage Hip Hop website. Welcome to the show, Karev.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. So let's get into some topics. So I wanted to get your take on the Daunte Wright situation. The trial of the former officer Kim Potter is going on right now. Several days or weeks in right now. She is the officer who's responsible for the death of Daunte Wright. Which we may remember this case. This happened right in the neck of the woods of where George Floyd occurred, and she mistook her taser for her firearm, allegedly, and killed him during a traffic stop. So what are your thoughts of this matter?
I'm being honest with you. I did a lot of research on this to get prepared for the show, and out of respect for you as the host.
I appreciate that.
And what I found out is in Grand Central, Minnesota, there's a lot of cases of police brutality and issues with people of color in that community.
Yes.
So this is just one of many outstanding cases of who are you, why are you here, and why are you doing this to our people in our community, you know?
Yeah.
Since the Oscar Grant case, there's been many cases of policemen and women now who have mistaken, air quotes, mistaken their firearm for tasers. And from what I understand, I need to know more about the training, because that's the most interesting part of this case that I really have looked into, is because a taser and a gun do not feel the same in your arms or hands, I should say. Mm-hmm. And I want to know, are they on the same side of each other during the process? Because this has been an alarming example or reason that people have used in every case, that I thought I had my gun, but I thought I had my taser, but I had my gun. And casualties have been falling in this country due to whatever cause, with racism as the underlying agreement that people of the disenfranchised community says is the reason.
Yeah, definitely. This has happened before, and it's interesting, she verbally said taser, taser. So it's just like, what happened that, she didn't actually pull the taser in this matter. And it seems like they kind of gave the family the runaround. I saw part of the trial where his mother was coming onto the scene, and, they kind of gave her the runaround in letting her know information and things like that. So we'll see how things will go in this case. But it's just, so tragic, to be pulled over just for a normal traffic stop and then you die. Like, that's not the way it's supposed to go.
Did you hear what the call was exactly that he got pulled over for?
Well, so apparently he had a warrant. But, I know there was a version of the story that he told his mother that something about the air freshener blocking the view.
So what I understand, because they do that in almost every state when it seems like a person wants to pick with you. But in Minnesota, it says that the air fresheners are an issue.
Okay.
So supposedly the first thing was it was registered tags. The tags expired. Then we hear the air freshener. Then the young man has a warrant. People would say, well, why is he running from the police? He's a criminal. This went on at the height of people saying police are not protecting us. So you got to do what you got to do to get out of there and survive, unfortunately. So it is the historical account of the lack of trust in the armed police men and women, the so-called protectors of the community, that caused this tragedy to even be in in existence.
Right.
It's people. I've used once. I'll tell you something. My past, I used to work at Sam Goody. If you're old enough to remember Sam Goody,
I am.
Sam Goody, you know what I'm saying? But I remember I worked with a gentleman named Chris, right? And I remember we had a conversation about police, and I was like, I don't give a damn about police. And he's like, well, my father's a cop. And I said, so what? I don't care. Because it's you I'm supposed to care. I don't like them. For the simple fact there's a history of people of color being killed by policemen. Now, is your dad a bad cop? I won't say that. But as an overall thing, I'm not very trusting of lights. I've been pulled over because of where I was and how I look and the type of car I've been in. So when you jade people with that experience, mind you, I'm in New Jersey. What about the people in the deep South who have police, or in the West who have police pulling them over? I have cousins that live in New York that were subject to stop and frisk, male and female.
Yeah.
I mean, that distrust is like very deep within our community to a point. It's not a, well, are they guilty? Are they not? Or what did you do? Because that's one of the most interesting questions you can ask somebody who's accused and they didn't do anything. It's hurting, you know?
Right.
Because this example exists, we are always protecting ourselves or defensive by the threat. And unfortunately in America, you could be a threat without even being threatening. So you believe and just living your own life. And that's the real tragedy.
It is.
Of all cases.
Yeah, and it's getting kind of worse, actually. So, yeah.
How about this? Let me ask you a question. Why do you think it's getting worse?
Well, I mean, we hear people like Ben Crump. I follow him a lot. He represents a lot of the families who go through these tragic encounters. And he often says that this feels like there's two Americas. Like there's one for whites and one for blacks. And, the outcomes don't normally go in our favor. And we see, violations of our civil rights and things like that just happening over and over again,
Well, how about this? Let me bring up 2 points. I don't believe in the white black thing from the door because those are social constructs. When we get rid of that, I believe a lot of us could come out of our situations. Honestly. That's just my opinion though.
Okay.
Number 2, do you remember one of the police men who were found members of a racial hate group who said, it was this clip on the news and on YouTube actually, where this gentleman said if Trump loses the election, it's going to be open season on people of color. And believe me, we're not for holding back. And when you think about that, because I'm not saying everything's linked to that, it's just a theory I have.
Yeah.
If these people are in law enforcement, law, firemen, etc., and people who are civil servants, the supposedly those who are the front line of protection for society.
Right.
If he says that it's open season and these are the people who have the open right to carry and say taser, but pull their firearm, it's kind of alarming, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the January 6th insurrection, last year or the beginning of the year, and how they just, I'm still in disbelief how that was even like possible that all those armed white people could just even crawling on top of the building. It just seems like something out of a movie and something not even real. And, just barging their way in there in a violent way. Can you imagine if it was a bunch of black people out there like that?
Yep.
They probably would just start shooting into the ground, you know?
But wait, you're a very intelligent young lady. America is the only country that wants to have revolutions when nobody gets hurt. You remember the famous
Mm.
revolution in France? Did they not behead Napoleon and Isabella? Let
Okay.
them have
Okay.
cake? Whenever you see insurrections in other countries, don't you see people take to the streets and things happen?
They do. They
So,
do.
so if the people who swear they own the country feel like they're losing the country, why would we ever expect anything unlike this to happen? I think America is very spoiled. We say we're the greatest country in the world. I'm not going to deny that we are one of the greatest countries ever. If you look at the ability to be poor to rich, there's no caste system overtly in our country. A person could win the lottery and change their lives, right?
Right.
But remember this, but if you're the person who believes you have ownership of something, you don't let it go easily. And with America being spoiled, where there never has been an invasion into our borders or people coming into our country doing what they want, think about that. We're spoiled and anything can happen. And they're making sure they show you anything can happen.
Mm. True. 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 So let's look at the other case that I had for you to look at with me. Justice Smollett. He was found guilty of faking a hate crime. Justice Smollett, the popular actor, was found guilty on was it 5 of the 6 charges, I believe, where he lied to the cops about staging a fake hate crime in a frigid Chicago street in January of 2019 when the incident occurred. He had been charged with 6 felony counts of disorderly conduct, enough to get him a maximum of 3 years potentially, or as little as probation or a fine. So we'll, and the jurors did return the guilty on 5 of the 6. So he hasn't been sentenced yet, but they came back with 5 of the 6. So, it's just
What's your
interesting.
question?
Well, I wonder, like, do we think that they're making an example of him because he's a celebrity, or it just doesn't seem fair. It just seems like a really harsh, for him to get all 5.
Okay, so your question was, do I think it's fair that he got charged with what he got charged with?
Or do we think that he was made an example of for being a celebrity?
You want my honest opinion on
I mean,
this?
think about what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. For example, how he just got cleared of. It was several charges against him. He
Yeah.
didn't even get not one. A lot of even black people feel like that was a self-defense matter. But I mean, we have to look at all the individual charges, the gun charge. He didn't get anything. He walked out of there. And for Jesse, whichever you feel about what happened, he got nearly all of them in his case. So.
No, because I don't think the Kyle Rittenhouse case and the Jussie Smollett case even matter to each other. They have no relevancy towards each other. There's no cross referencing. No, one is of a juvenile who should be guilty because his mother or father or whoever, his guardian, got him an AR-15 rifle, took him across state lines.
Right.
I believe the first shot was self-defense, but it was murder afterwards, because after you shoot somebody fall, you do not have to continue firing.
Okay.
The guilt in the case, besides the idiot judge who threw the gun charge out, is when his mother aided an abetted criminal by taking him across county lines to bars so he could drink and celebrate shooting people with other hicks. That's the crime there. Jussie Smollett is a person who, in theory, because I don't know all the facts, but I have heard this, wanted more people to love him to get more money from the Empire show, and this stunt occurred, and from the way he portrayed himself through it, not only did he lie, and people on social media before the case even finished said he lied, it looked like a lie, it felt like a lie, and more importantly, when you call yourself the gay Tupac, you deserve everything you get for being a liar. How dare you use someone who fought for the freedom of folks by giving his life, even if it was not justly, and made songs about dear mama and the community and fighting police, to now being a gay guy who supposedly made up something with two African diesel bodybuilders supposedly beating you up when one of them was secretly your boyfriend, so you say. Please, there is no correlation to these cases.
I mean, it still just seems like he's African American. Did they just stick it to him, or do he? Okay, we feel like he's a liar.
I don't give two damns if he was African American or not. That has nothing to do with this case. This case is about lying and putting police into matters that are not real. Let me tell you what this case reminds me of. Okay. Emmett Till. Because did not a white woman lie and Emmett Till got murdered?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I almost started to put that on here because they reopened that case and then they just closed it.
Because that evil bitch is 80-something years old and they don't want her to suffer. But a lie is a lie, and it took a life. Now, with Jussie Smollett's case, it did not take a life, but Chicago is one of the most violent cities in America as it's portrayed in the public. Okay. I'm not from Chicago, so I can't tell you what's going on in Chicago. I can only tell you what I'm showed through the media, and the media paint a picture that's crazy. Mm-hmm. All right, so if Chicago's that bad, and because you're an actor, an entertainer, and people are going to give you benefit of the doubt, you mean to tell me police resources was taken away from him instead of finding a killer or closing a case just because he lied because he wanted money and to fill up on two Africans with muscles? I'm good.
Okay, so maybe it was an attention thing and it just got out of hand, but yeah, if he really had some scheme with those guys, I mean, that is just really elaborate for him to do something like that. Jeez.
He's the gay Tupac. What can I tell you? That's what he said. I'm the gay Tupac. When he said that, the case was gone. He lost. I'm good.
Oh, man. Okay. So, I don't want to get your thoughts on that. So, let's talk about your podcast and heritage hip hop. So, yeah, you are a content creator and you have this great website with these great interviews. Tell us about Heritage Hip Hop.
Well, Heritage Hip Hop is a creation that came about because I believe that hip hop is more than music, it's God and how we express our level of creativity. And because we are the hip hop generation, I'll just call it Heritage Hip Hop. And the birth of it comes from my desire to work for Ralph McDaniels and Video Music Box when I was a teenager. Okay. Never happened. But as time went on, I seen that people from New Jersey, my home state, salute to the state of New Jersey, Garden State represent, we have great, incredible hip hop artists, singers, and more, and we don't get talked about. And when people started dying, like Apache died. Nobody talks about Apache.
Oh wow.
We have another. This might be funny to some people because his name, but Duke Booty. He was one of the people who from Sugar Hill Gang records. Okay. You don't really hear too much about. We have people like Chief Boogie of the No Good Bastards, Nam Myers. We have so many people. Big Snuff. Rest in peace, and Govmatic, who are the main two people that sparked this move for me. Without people telling our story, I believe that it will be lost. And I'm not going to wait for somebody to help us tell our story. So the Most High made it so I can do interviews. I could bring out people's truth. People could tell their stories. And Heritage Hip Hop is celebrating our hip hop from New Jersey across the world by giving people a chance to tell their story and to expose their personalities, not just their art through music.
That's awesome. And so do you like specialize or have an emphasis on the underground in particular, or just?
Our emphasis is on the culture.
Okay.
So whether you're mainstream, independent, underground, or just starting, as long as you have a voice and I could feel the spirit of your music, I will give you that chance to talk.
Okay, that's awesome. Definitely. And it's, a lot of these artists, they had a great run, and then, like you said, you didn't hear about them anymore, and their stories do need to be told. A lot of young people are coming across their music and have no idea about their story. So it's definitely a need. So I certainly appreciate what you're doing here. What would you say would be one of your most memorable interviews?
Well, my one of my favorite interviews I did was with my friend. Her name is Tanisha B. Malone. Because heritage hip hop is not about music. Like I said before, I talk to politicians, I talk to authors, I talk to other content creators such as yourself, because hip hop culture is just that. If it's a culture, it has to be more than one thing, and you can't put it in a box. It has to be a compass of everybody's lives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my
Cool.
friend Tanisha B. Malone, salute to her, is a person who was a model. She was a stewardess. She did a lot in her life, and she became like the head coroner for Bergen County and Essex County, New Jersey. And her take on how the case that reformed DIFUS by finding a little boy who was like stuffed in a container and like left for dead in his foster home.
Okay.
That interview touched me because we could talk about music and beats, but a lot of people don't talk about the woman's influence that's going in the household, like grandma.
Right.
And how she said her grandmother told her always wear a slip with a dress and stuff like that. Like you don't hear people talk about that anymore. I got in that conversation more about hip hop when it comes to the effect things have on our community, like death, mentorship, entrepreneurship, etc. That to me is one of the most important interviews I've ever done with somebody of the hip hop culture that does not do music.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then I have a few questions I want to ask you from the good people at Poddex.
No problem.
So, let's see, were you ever really passionate about something and then you suddenly lost interest? If so, what was it?
Almost everything. Yeah, really, because
Okay.
because my mind goes so many different places that I can't say I've completed a lot of the tasks I've ever put myself into, because I get bored in the middle if it doesn't give me back that need or desire to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's cool. And then, what famous person's memoir would you love to read? I'm not sure if you're a reader or not.
I am. There's a lot of famous people who I like to learn from. What is your definition of famous? So I'll give you my answer.
I don't know, like a celebrity or some. I would give me somebody famous from history or something.
I think the most important person today that inspires me, whose memoir I would like to read, is probably a person no one knows. Because
Okay.
they would be famous to me, and that's the first person to see settlers come to this country. Because we don't have a name for that person, but that story would be amazing.
Oh yeah, I can see that being a movie, right? Like, like
Yeah,
yeah, totally.
I
Okay.
think that most interests me
Okay. So, history buff, are you?
somewhat.
Okay. Here's another. Do you like to plan things out in detail or be spontaneous?
Both
Both.
depends on what I'm doing.
Okay. One more for fun. Name something on your to-do list that never gets done.
Sleep.
Okay, but at least it's on a to-do list, right?
That's some. I love to sleep, but I don't get to sleep or rest.
Okay. And so, please tell us how we can find Heritage Hip Hop and contact you if people would like to do so.
Thank you very much. Once again, everybody, my name is Karev. I'm the CEO and owner of Heritage Hip Hop. You can find me on my digital real estate, heritagehiphop.com. There we have a membership where if you are a member of the platform, membership is free, by the way. You get exclusive playlists and music. I could be found on all social media in Clubhouse at Heritage Hip Hop, no underscores, nothing in between, just Heritage Hip Hop. My video content is available on my website and on YouTube. My podcast content is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor.fm, as well as Google Podcasts. I am everywhere at the same time. that you are. So all you gotta do is reach out to me at Heritage Hip Hop, preferably on Instagram, and from there we could have the greatest conversations ever. Because as you see, not only can I talk, but I could always also carry a conversation based on your opinion as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I thank you. Anything else to share?
It was a pleasure to be on your show. Make sure everybody you support Woke by Accident podcast as well as Heritage Hip Hop podcast by giving it a review anywhere you get your podcast. Make sure you follow us, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to leave a comment to let us know how you like our content. And guess what? We're growing with you. So make sure when we set the table, you come and eat with us. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. I appreciate it. You take care, and we appreciate you, and have a great new year.
Same to you. God bless.
Right. Thanks. Thanks, you guys, for listening. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out, and also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms, and please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening, and take care.